Hey everybody, Brian here for another episode of Let's Get Physical. And on this episode, I want to talk about the death of physical media. We've heard a lot if you collect movies, you heard a lot about records years ago and CDs and tapes, and I feel like a lot of those are making a comeback. There's a couple VHS shows that have popped up in my area, and I know my co host Clint on the podcast, his area in Michigan has some VHS tapes, shows. There's also record shows popping up. There's Record Store Day twice a year now. But if we're talking about movies, we're talking about 4K, we're talking about DVD and Blu-rays. Walmart is about the only place on a national level that you can go and shop for movies. You can shop at Barnes& and Noble, but Barnes& and Noble are mostly in big cities. Physical media has left Target. It's left Best Buy, which is mostly in the bigger cities too. So outside of Walmart, local places like Disc Replay, which I have several in the area, thrift stores, and if you're lucky enough to have a local mom and pop shop that carries any form of physical media, you definitely need to support them. And there are great companies. I feel like, and I've talked about this on the podcast with several friends, we are in the golden age of horror movies and horror movie collecting, from posters to figures to cups to books. There's just everything you could want pretty much in horror movie collecting and cult collecting, cult cinema. And there are so many great companies right now. You start at the top. To me, Severin, Vinegar Syndrome, Criterion, Arrow, Kino, Blue Underground. The list goes on and on and on. There's Shout Factory that does a lot of more mainstream stuff, but I feel like Shout's kind of fallen off lately. They used to do original posters and original artwork, and they've kind of started reboxing and rebranding some of the posters that were already on there. So they've kind of fallen down the ladder to me a little bit. And that's okay. They're still doing great stuff. They're still putting out great stuff. But Severin, Arrow, Vinegar Syndrome, Kino, they're just a lot of great companies. And I think the most important thing I want to talk about is if you go to a movie or you watch a movie on any form of streaming services, which as a physical media lover, I do love streaming. I do love that I can jump on at any time of the day and try to watch a movie that I've never seen. But I know how things work. And I know that just because a movie is on streaming today, it may not be tomorrow. And just because a movie's on physical media today, it may not be tomorrow. One of my favorite films, because it's near and dear to my heart, I showed it with Severin Films at the Orpheum Theater in Galesburg, Illinois, is Strange Behavior, also known as Dead Kids. Well, it's out of print, and I don't know that it's streaming anywhere. And even if it is it eventually going to be chopped to hell because somebody at a streaming service owns the rights and says, I don't like that part of the movie. I do like this part. I don't like this. I don't want to see this. It's not politically correct right now, but in 20 years it may be. And in 20 years, everything in movies from 40 years ago may not be politically correct at all. But along with banned books, people are starting to ban movies. You hear a lot about banned books, but you don't hear a lot about not banned movies, but stuff being taken out of movies. It's people going in, like I said, and taking stuff out of movies. So I think if you love a film and it's on the edge there, it's one of those Verge movies or, one of those movies that's right there on the edge, that it's maybe mainstream enough to get a theater release and be on streaming for a while, but you don't know if it's going to stick around. You definitely need to go grab a copy because your Disneys are always going to be on streaming. Your Marvels are always going to be on streaming. Your big Friday the 13th and Halloweens, for the most part, are going to be on streaming. You may have to pay for them, but they're going to be there. But if you like Strange Behavior or The Greasy Strangler or maybe even Jason X falls by the wayside eventually and is not streaming anywhere as time goes on, or my favorite Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 5. you go buy a copy of it. Whatever that copy may be, whether it's a Blu-ray or a 4K, you grab a copy of it because that's a piece of history. If you look back at films, we go back to the 50s and you see what life was like back then and how movies and people lived. You're going to eventually go back to the 80s, older people like us, and curse the kids for stepping on your grass. And it will continue to happen as time goes on, where more and more people don't have VCRs and DVD players and Blu-ray players and 4K players. But my hope of hopes is that eventually physical media, as far as movies, makes a comeback like records have. And then I'll be sitting on a pile of stuff that people want. And that may not happen. Music is a medium that I feel like spans generations and time, and maybe movies not so much. But I do have a 6-year-old that loves all of the original Godzilla movies. We've watched several of the Universal Monster movies, and she loves those too. And I think at the end of the day, what is important to me is going and sharing the movies that I love that are appropriate with the people that I love, with the little kids that we're raising up to be the next people that run this country and people that take over my job in healthcare and maybe even run a company like an Arrow. I mean, I would be in seventh heaven if that little girl grew up and loved movies as much as I did and was able to work for a company and help preserve the importance that is movies and history. I hope you guys have a good day, and I will stop rambling on this episode. The next episode, I will bring you another movie. I think I'll do some Elvira next episode. Hope you guys have a good day, and don't forget, physical media will never die. Take care. Bye-bye.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.